Okay, let's talk about some of the most common mistakes people make, some rules that are misinterpreted, and some rules that are maybe a little bit tough to understand so that you're playing Gloomhaven the way it was intended. And if you make any of these mistakes, and I've made a lot of them, don't feel bad, happens to all of us, and that's why you're here watching this video. So the first one is players cannot tell each other initiative numbers. If you are using perfect information, you have to increase the difficulty because telling each other initiative numbers means you can make some very strong plays and it's going to make the scenarios a lot easier for you. So you can use vague terminology. Hey, I'm going to go fast. Don't make up a secret code creating separate code words for every 10 initiative from low to high. Number 2. Summons do not follow your orders unless you've played a card. They follow a move +0, attack +0, just like monsters do. Number 3. Some cards have a refreshed consumed item and they've got a little bag symbol on them. What this actually means is refresh only small items. And I made this one myself. You can't get back your weapons, your armor, all that other stuff. And I think this one is easily confused or happens a lot because the bag, it looks like an item symbol. Number 4, elements are empowered at the end of your turn. And this means that you can never use an element you create yourself. And that's why it kind of pops in at the end of the turn. It's a rule that seems really weird. And, I've misplayed it myself. And so you don't have to worry about, the order that you create or consume elements on your turn. Number 5, monster focus rules. Monsters always find the closest person, the closest ally first and focus on that. Taking into account, and this is the tough part, obstacles and traps. And so they will focus on somebody that they can get to when taking those factors into consideration. And also remember that traps are treated as obstacles. They will always try and go around them, even if that means trotting around the entire globe to get away from that trap. You can't run them through that trap if there's even one possible pathway. So just to clear this up really quick, let's head to the table. In this case, there's no path anywhere for this monster to focus. So simply goes here, activates the trap, attacks the Craigheart. But this is where it gets interesting. Let's remove this trap here. Now there's a path all the way around the outside. So yes, this monster is now focusing on the Scoundrel instead of the Craigheart because there is a free path to the Scoundrel and the Scoundrel is closer. So yes, this guard is going to go globe-trotting around here. Make sure you use that to your advantage when you're planning your turns. Number 6. You can move through your own allies, but you cannot move through monsters. And allies include summons. And monsters, they can also move through each other, but they can't move through you. Everybody's got to end in an empty hex. Number 7. Shields. Shields only work on attacks. They don't work on suffer damage abilities. They don't work on traps. They don't work on anything other than attack damage. So make sure that you remember that when you're calculating how much damage you're going to take. Number 8. All monsters will take their turn after you open a door, no matter what their initiative order is. So you're going to open a door, you finish your turn. You get to take all of your actions. As soon as your turn is done, the next ally or monster takes their initiative turn in order. It doesn't matter if the initiative of one of the monsters is less, they will go first. They do not miss their turn. This one's misplayed quite a bit, and hopefully that clears it up for you. Number 9, small items and how many of them you can carry. This is a very rookie mistake. Happens to mostly rookies, but you only get to hold a number of small items divided by your level, rounded up, which means at level 3, that's when you can have 2 potions. Number 10, advantage and rolling modifiers. And this one gets really tricky. Whenever you're on advantage, you pull 2 cards. If you pull a rolling modifier, and let me just quickly explain here. So you pull 1 card, let's say it's a +1. You pull a second card, it's a rolling modifier. You pull a third card, it's another rolling modifier. Then you pull a 4th card, and it's a miss. You add up all the cards together, so you will do no damage. This is why a lot of people get messed up on advantage with rolling modifiers, is you just keep pulling until you get something that's not a rolling modifier, and you add everything together. This means that if you've got poison or heal or any of those things, those still take effect, but if you pull a miss on your 4th or 5th card, that's still a miss. Okay, we've gone through our first 10 rules, mistakes, misconceptions, misunderstandings, whatever you want to call them. But if you could, at this point, go ahead, hit that like button. It really helps me out a lot. And if you could, go ahead and subscribe and turn on notifications so that when I put out new content, you're notified. And also, I've created a video. I think you're really going to like it. I've ranked all 22 of the Gloomhaven classes. This is including Forgotten Circles, and it's including Jaws of the Lion. So go ahead, I'm going to put a link up above. I'm not sure which hand. I'm going to go at this hand this time. I'm going to put a link here. Go ahead, check that out. See how your favorite classes compare to the rest of the classes in the Gloomhaven universe. Number 11, refreshing items that have not been fully spent, like armor. And we're talking about ones that have the little spend icon and that have charges. So let's take hide armor, for example. You have 1 charge used on it and you long rest. It does not get refreshed back to 2 charges. So make sure that you've used up all of your charges before you long rest or before you use an item to get that back. Number 12, you don't know that you can discard cards from your active area anytime you want. So let's talk quickly about summons. You're at the end of a scenario. You've been doing really well. You've got lots of cards left, but there's piles of loot everywhere because you were focused on, putting monsters down. You've got a summon out there. The last monster has 1 hit point. Your summon is going to go and kill that monster and end the scenario before you can go rake in that sweet loot. Well, you can discard that summon at any point in time. Summon disappears off the face of the earth. At any point in time, you can discard cards from your active area and it cancels the effects. Mind Thief augments. They're not lost cards, so if you want to increase longevity, you can actually choose to discard them before you rest, and then when you rest, you've got an extra card that you can choose from, and you can go ahead and replay that card so that you can take a few extra turns in a scenario. Number 13, attack versus attack action. And there's a big difference here. So we're going to talk about crackling air and something like fire orbs. For every monster that you target with fire orbs, you're going to use up a charge of crackling air. So it's good for 4 attacks. So if you hit 3 targets with fire orbs, you've used up 3 charges. You don't get to use 1 charge for the entire spell and turn crackling air into one of the best cards in the game when it's definitely a fairly low tier card. If you don't use air on it, you're getting +1 to 4 attacks. Make sure you're not using it for that. Number 14, you cannot trade items or share money for that sweet purchase of a new item you've just recently unlocked. Think of it this way. You're roommates, but you don't really like each other. You live in the same house out of necessity, but at night you lock the door. You don't share food. Everyone has their own section in the refrigerator. You have a chore chart. On your day, it's your turn to do chores. I'm going on endlessly here. You get the point. Don't share things. You're mercenaries. Adding targets to AoE spells. Nope, you do not get to recast Dirt Tornado and hit 18,000 hexes at once. You're adding 1 hex onto Dirt Tornado. You're not recasting the entire spell. Number 16, taking experience on a card that has a target like an attack when you're not actually attacking things. No, you cannot go practice your sword play and chop through the air and take an experience point for it. Number 17, summoned enemies do not drop loot. Nope, you cannot go farm a certain type of enemy that replicates, just in case there's people who haven't gotten that far. You cannot go and farm summoned enemies for their gold. Make sure you're keeping track of when something is a summon versus an enemy that was placed there for the actual scenario, and stop trying to break the system. Number 18, summons act during a long rest. Yep, they're separate people. It's like having children. They do whatever the hell they want. You're resting and they're out wrecking things and making a mess of the house. Number 19, you get an extra perk when you start a new character for every previous character you've retired. So if you're on your 4th character and you're starting at level 5, you're getting, 3 perks plus all your level 5 perks as well that you would normally start out with. It has to be in the same lineage. And this is getting pretty rulesy here. So I'm going to just post up here the lineage part from the official FAQ so that you can take a look and get a good understanding of how it works. Number 20, summons act in the order they are summoned. Make sure you're keeping track of this, especially if you've got a summon card that summons more than one summon. You need to keep track because it's going to make a big difference in how things play out, because they're going to follow monster summon rules like we talked about before. So make sure and remember that when you're summoning, when you're making your summon plans. I hope you've liked the video and it's helped you to understand Gloomhaven a little bit better. So if you could, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, turning on notifications so that when I publish new content, you're notified. Thank you so much for watching the video.